Hello, hi leaders. I'm Maratib from 7 Habits of Highly Effective group and also from the other platform which we are recording. Today we will discuss about very important topic and this topic is something which is really crucial and very challenging for everyone. Whether you are in any level of your life or success, this topic and this aspect of your communication is really demanding the good knowledge, good understanding about some realities which we will discuss as well. It's a vast topic. I will try to cover it quickly on a main topic within this whole subject, and if you want me to elaborate something important or you can also comment in, and then I can also elaborate while we are discussing this topic. We will try to understand the first part of habit number 5, which is first seek to understand and then to be understood. So first part is first seek to understand, and this is the all about this video, which is also referring to the empathetic listening or empathy listening. And also I will try to give you some example as well. I will also try to give you the difference between empathic listening and sympathy. I will also try to discuss about what are the components making for the empathy listening. I will also try to discuss some practical explanation and practical example which you can also implement in your personal or work life or your social life as well. So like I said, it's a quite vast topic. I will try to make it contented way and in a shorter way as well. But I would request you need to be in conversation. You need to ask some question, something input in response of my feedback and my light upon certain points within that topic, and that will make a very healthy conversation. That is all about we are learning, we are sharing, and we are from there we are learning as well. And more importantly, also at the end we will discuss 10 things regarding to empathy listening and how we can be a big and great empathy listener by following these 10 things based on Dr. Stephen R. Covey's stuff. So is that clear? If somebody cannot listen to me properly or this online video transmission has any technical issue, please let me know, and then I will go further ahead. So let me tell you about why this is important. We are in seriously troubling period we are passing. Everybody has problem with other person or other organization. We have serious problem of relationships. That relationships is between boss and employee, between husband and wife, between children and parents, between customer and organization, and between organization to organization, between one political party to other political party, between one group to other group, and it's covering lot of areas, because this is all about communication. Obviously, I will not explain you what is communication. But we are discussing here one aspect of communication, which is related to habit number 5 of Dr. Stephen R. Covey's famous habit. That whole title is First Seek to Understand and Then to Be Understood. The problem with our leaders nowadays, we intend to listen, but we want to listen to reply to others. And that is our biggest problem nowadays. I want to listen my husband, I want to listen my boss or my employee, I want to listen my customer, but just only to give them a reply, a nice reply. That's it. And this is a very, very dishonest, in the sense that you categorically listen in a hypocrisy manner. Actually, you are not listening to the person, you want to say to that person, and you are pretending to for listening to that person. And that's happening everywhere, and people, the recipient usually is very dissatisfied. For example, if a husband is not listening to the wife on some important issue, and if he tries to pretend that he is listening her, and actually he is not listening, or he knows that what he will answer or he will discuss after pretend of listening to her, then the wife will not satisfy, and the problem will not be resolved what it supposed to be. Similarly, if children will not be listened the way it should be, there will be a poor relationship between parents and the children. The same thing is about one political party when they are discussing in a parliament forum, in a political selected government. If one party is not listening to the other party in the way that how it should be, then the clash and then the political instability and unrest will be seen in whole nation as well. And obviously very bad results we see as well. At the same time, if there is a misunderstanding between boss and employee, boss try to explain something to the employee, or employee try to make something to the boss, but they don't want to listen with the empathetic spirit, then what happens? Both will remain dissatisfied. That will impact on poor productivity at the workplace. That will make the poor relationship at the workplace, and the organizational goal or departmental goal will not be achieved, or even we will touch. Now these are the issues, and I will try to explain briefly that how we can work on these things. Many people, myself, or I seen many individuals as well, they are very good leaders. They have a time management skills, they can maintain self-discipline, they are following their goals, they are chasing their targets, and they are entrepreneur as well, but they are very poor listener. And actually they admit as well. Many people admit that they don't listen other people properly, even what they said while we were in conversation, and just after that I said sorry, what do you mean, sorry. And that apologetic type of communication, when the listener is not listening, then the problem will not resolve. So we need to work on this, how we can do this. So there are a couple of things I'm going to tell you and share with you, and then we can do. So just I want to, before I go further in this session, I want to know that who is watching, because my screen is not telling me who is watching or somebody has comment, I have to check my other screen and then I will come back to you. Yeah. Excuse me. So, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Playing from Maratib's iPad.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So my video is on the air. So I hope that everybody should learn something important, and also I need to listen from you as well in terms of what are your problems, how we can discuss here to get some conclusion or some roadmap about listening. So let's go for the further. So basically, what happens when some person is trying to in negotiation with other person in a business environment, maybe they are in a selling condition. One person is selling and other is buyer. Maybe it's product or maybe it's service. Then the other person is very much in its own frame of reference, and the listener, until he or she is occupied by his or her own thoughts, own paradigms, own experience, the other person you cannot understand. So how we can make it sure that we are listening, and what are the standards and what are the deep thoughts about that we can listen the other, that we need to take his or her shoes to us, to my foot, and then I need to suspend my frame of reference temporarily. I need to hold my mind, my paradigms, my perspective, and just go and jump into the other person's head and just see how she or he is describing, or he or she is feeling exactly with the same spirit what she or he is experiencing. I know this is a very difficult. This is one of the most difficult thing between two people, two person, between husband and wife, between parents and children, employee and boss, and one political party and other political party, one group to other group, and customer and organization or officer. But we have to suspend our mental thinking for temporary, for just limited time, and just put our head exactly in the same level what he or she is trying to say, and just listen that how she can be felt in the way. And obviously why it is difficult? It is difficult because we actually, when interact with someone, we have our own experiences of the same situation. We have our own biases and prejudice of the same situation. We have some thinking pattern and feelings about same thing what other person is describing about, or about the content. So what happens when we are trying to listening other or interacting with other, then as soon the other person is start to discuss or speak in the flow, your mind, your thought, and your frame of reference will try to grab their old thoughts and feeling with my feelings and thoughts. And then what happens? I cannot understand that person. I will not be able to understand really, because I'm trying to understand with my frame of reference, whereas I need to understand her or him with her mind as frame of reference. So that's the how we can proceed further for some solution or meaningful discussion as well. And then I can seek to be understood. I cannot be understood until I have a empathy for that person. So that is a very important and very thin point we must need to understand. So the bottom line, we must think or feel with the other person's frame of reference. Is that okay? Is that clear? And then after that we can be understood. But in this video I'm not going to discuss how you will seek to be understood. We are just discussing how we can seek to understand. So we need to understand the other person, and that's our whole topic is, and that is very challenging. The last 2 weeks ago we had a poll of in the group of around 12,000 people were communicated that poll, and mostly people think that habit number 5 is the most difficult and challenging, and that's why we are trying to understand, and we want to be expert, we want to be a leader in that habit, and that's all about and now I am discussing in this session the first part of the habit, which is first seek to understand, which referring to the empathy listening. Now let's go to further. Now what is the difference between empathy listening or empathy and sympathy? Can anybody tell what is the difference between sympathy and empathy? I'm not underestimating the sympathy. Sympathy is also good in some degree, but obviously the points of the sympathy is very, very low as compared to the empathy as well. But we need to understand both. Can somebody tell on the message that what is the difference between sympathy and empathy? I want you to engage as well in our conversation. So I can't read the messages here. Maybe I can read here. All right, let's go further. The sympathy is actually about a listening, a sort of active listening to the person. It is also related just giving a sympathetic type of feelings, just listening other to make them calm down. Just it's like to helping for the it's sort of little psycho wave, giving to the psycho wave to that person. Also sympathy is referring to other person will depend on you. So until you are putting the back, the other person will okay that okay he is listening to me. So you are making him your dependent. So that is a limitation actually, as contrast to the empathy. And in empathy, you make the other person independent as it is, because you are not giving her or him sympathy. You are 1 or 2 steps ahead from that person, and the other person will have its own grip of feelings, on thoughts, on frame of reference, because he or she does not have a threat from you that you are going to change them. Until you reach to the next next part, which is a other thing, and also that also belongs to, is it really necessary to change the other frame of reference? So that's another topic we are not going to discuss, but here we are discussing about sympathy and the empathy. Any other difference you can tell me about between sympathetic listening or empathetic listening? So I can also sympathy is related to a sort of agreement with the person, that, oh, I understand, oh, I know. It's sort of agreement. But in empathy, you are not going to have an agreement with person. That's why in a professional manner, many people, they have sort of profession where you have to give some sympathy to other people, and you mean to give sympathy. But we are talking about the empathy and how we can give the empathy to other people as well. And it is very important that you don't have to be agree with other person in empathy. And it is very important. You will have your own frame of reference, and other person will have their own frame of reference. You are not trying to change them, and they are not going to change you. So just you and he or her both are listening to each other in the way that we both on a equilibrium, and exactly they become like a soulmate. Exactly they become with each other mind, and that's how it does happen also in a very intense relationship, that everybody knows each other exactly in the same spirit how it should be. So that's, but in sympathy, you try to change other as well. Maybe the other person who has its own autobiographical explanation, you are trying to change as well. Oh no, you should not be like this. Oh really? Or you should not be like this. So you are commenting on this thing as well in sympathy, and that is a very vast difference as well. In empathy, you also listen, and you have a slice of truth of other person. But in sympathy, you don't have intentions to take slice of truth from other, because, and that's important. Why empathy is important? Because you know the different paradigm of reality of the one thing, and maybe you cannot understand how your wife is experiencing that thing. But if you will listening to your wife or your children or your customer or your other party, then if you have an empathetic approach, then you really interact or experience a different type of experience, and that experience will give you a slice of truth which you never knew. And in sympathy you can't get it, because you don't have approached this, isn't it? Is that make sense? And very important aspect which I discussed already, that in empathy, everybody is independent. Nobody is trying to change anybody. But in sympathy, obviously, you try to change, and other person is talking with you that he or she wants a sympathy, and that's that of thing. So, is that make sense? Let's go further about. I will quote you Dr. Stephen Covey, one great quote regarding to this. So Dr. Stephen saying, if you really seek to understand without hypocrisy and without guile, There will be times when you will be literally stunned with the pure knowledge and understanding that will flow to you from another human being. That is why how it does work with the stuff. So let's go further about what are the things necessary to become empathetic listener. So empathetic listener has certain mindset, and there are a couple of things you can. One thing, if somebody is describing, you can probe some question, but these questions are not for other purposes except clarification from the person. So you can ask the question, is that you mean? I see. So you can ask the question just to have a better clarity from the person. Also, you can ask the other stuff which you can imagine from their frame of references. So this is very important aspect of empathy listening as well. There is another very important aspect that in empathy you get at the result of a relationship which leads to the synergetic relationship, which create the phenomena of a synergy. We call it synergy, and that synergy cannot be we get until we have a very detailed relationship and very empathetic relationship between listener and the other person. So this is one of the most important thing. Hi Rupesh, I hope you are okay. So also that is an important thing, that you can rephrase what other person is trying to say. So if you are listening other person, repeat that thing and rephrase, is that you mean? And that is very important. That is a part of empathy listening. And obviously that is something that you can do when you are in their head. But because you may have a languages level of languages which both have in a different with a different background, that's why it's better you rephrase it, and a rephrase is just is a rephrase, and that is a very important thing about between listener and the recipient where you are going to sing. So I hope my voice is coming. Let me check my my audience is there. Yeah, so there is third thing, how the empathetic listening can be very important, and you need to show the other person that you have empathy. You need to show emotionally attachment, the way how they are experiencing. Imagine that when a child is explaining her pain to mummy, can you imagine the face or gesture of the mummy or a mother, how she does experience the same in the way as it is like the child is experiencing actually. So same when you are listening to other, you need to understand also in the same spirit, and you reflect through your conversation. Oh really? Oh my God! Oh, and if you can also laugh in the same feeling which other person is laughing as well. So there are 2-3 things that make you the empathetic listener as well. Is that make sense with people? Yeah. So now let's go to the further about. I will give you an example about how empathy listening can work in a different situation, and this example will also give you a practical explanation how you can interact with other with the empathic listening for resolving the problems of your future, and also not for future but also for present as well. So let me tell you about the other things as well, and I give you the same feeling, same event, and there are the four responses you can give, and that you need to judge as well. So these responses can be probing. You can ask questions as well. You can use the other techniques as well. I can tell you also little bit later about this. But let me tell you about uh, these situations, and then after that we will discuss about the 10 things for empathy listening. So Steve, there is a situation, and between Steve and leader, and Steve is saying, "This project is really getting the best for me. I don't know if I'm going to get it done before my son's birthday." So this is what Steve is trying to say. Now, Lillian, she is replying, or she feels like it, and she is commenting on it. It sounds like you have some deadline you are trying to meet. This is her response to Steve. Another, so this is how you need to reflect your feelings, what the other person is saying. The same thing, here is another example. Villain can also explain to the other person, to the Steve, "Oh, Steve, you seem little worried." So that you are adding some emotion there. You can also, at the best level, you can say to Steve, "It seems like you are worried about the deadline that you want to do. Now this is a complete great because the Lillian, she is worried about the deadline. She is also concerning the deadline of the Steve as well, and that's how so this is there are the skills how we can improve our empathy listening. Empathy listening is also very important when you try to understand body languages. How many people you know about that body language is more and highest impact on the listener than just the words? Do you know what is a percentage? How many percentage of body language has impact on other person? Can anybody tell? I can't see the message. Let me see if I can see the message. No, I cannot see. 90% 90% body languages or non-verbal language has impact on the listener. So for example, if I'm speaking now and my words are only impacting on you, giving you only 10%, but what is impacting on you, how you are understanding my things through my body language and my tone of the voice. So tone of the voice and my body language contribute significantly, around 90% on the communication, and words are only 10%. So that is how you can improve your empathic listening when you try to understand other person's body language, and you can do this. And everybody should consider the other person's body language and the tone of the voice as well. So there is a famous trick as well. When somebody is listening, or you are watching some movie or drama or clip, just close your ears like this and see how his or her body is moving, and you will observe that her or his body is aligned what she is speaking. Most of the time not, but you will see very surprising things. I see sometime by mute my television and see how the actors and other people are actually acting, and that from that acting I absorb lot of other meanings than actually with listening by their voice as well. Because what happened, the words when mixed with the body language, they give you a different meaning, little bit, or different sense of understanding. But when you are just listening or watching through eyes, the body language, that is an entirely different communication. And that the wise people always prefer to consider the other people's body language, and they concentrate less on the words. But the great communicator are those who speak eloquently, who have a good vocabulary, their body language is aligned with their words and also tone of voice as well. And that makes you a great speaker, but at the same time empathic listener as well, because until you don't have sense of these things, you cannot influence on other. So this is a very important thing you need to understand about this thing. So let's come back to the other second last thing of our video, and which is 4 responses of empathic listening we can do. There are 4 responses: 1, 2, 3, 4. And what are these 5 responses? Hello, hi. I think there are a couple of people, they are watching as well, but I cannot see because there are some limitation. And let me see this screen as well. Yeah, there are. There are 4 types of responses which people usually respond when they listen other. Number 1, they evaluate other, or whether the other person is saying right or wrong, or agree or disagree. Number 2, he can interpret the stuff, explaining what other person is saying. This is also very common. Then they are also questioning. We call it probe response. So that is very important. Actually, that comes in active listening. So somebody is saying you something, and you are trying to you are asking question, and that questions obviously can be related in the spirit of empathy for better clarity. But if you are not having empathy consciousness, then still you can ask so many questions. Okay, what did happen? Oh, before what happened? Or after what happened? Or is that you really mean? Or so these type of all probing you can people also do as well. And the last thing, the 4th response people they do advise and many people they advise the other person a lot, and when they are listening to other, so after that they give some piece of advice about any situation what they were talking about, and actually that is a little not good for with that person. Like I said, these are all non-empathic responses, and we need to avoid this. We don't need to listen other to interpret their things. We don't need to listen other person just probing and asking other unnecessary questioning. We don't need to ask any other person for just giving showing that, oh, you are agree what you listen, or you are not agree or agree, these type of things. So we have to become a great listener, and the great listener, they don't reply as an advisor, as a just explainer, or just evaluating the statement of the recipient. So that is very important. That so you think that if you want to know that are you a good empathy listener, or do you have an empathy, just see that are you going to other person's frame of reference and the same feeling exactly what he or she is experiencing. If not, then you are not in empathy listening. And don't claim yourself, don't try to make fool yourself. You should have this sense very much. Then the relationship between husband and wife, and children and parents, one political party with other, customer and organization, boss and employees, and etc. That will be a good relationship as well. So that is a brief explanation of what about the listening and thing, and empathy. In the last thing, we meant to discuss about 10 important things related to empathy listening, which is described by Dr. Stephen Covey as well. I will recite them as well. Excuse me. Most of the stuff we have already know, but it will be more clear as well. And in the meanwhile, you can also share, you can write your own experiences as well if you have any question before we close this video as well. Yeah, is that clear? So let me read some of what we call it 10 steps to become an empathic listener. So 10 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what are the 10 steps that make you become a leader, and that leader who will become a very great listener or empathetic listener? Yeah. So number 1 step, practicing saying that take your time, I'm listening, and really mean it. That's the number 1 step, and that's very important. Yeah. And what you give the other person a huge time to speak, and you need to have also a good time and vast time to give other person to speak properly, and you can listen as well. And if you are not giving, you are in short of time, or you are in urgency, you can't listen other, because listening is sort of giving a full time to other. The second step is set aside your own agenda. So what you have in your mind, you need to keep separate. Put your frame of reference aside. Suspend your perspective for time being, for a couple of minutes, for half an hour. Just go other person's shoes, go other person's hat. That's a difficult, but it is obviously achievable. Step number 3, be available and receptive emotionally as well as through body language. So when you are listening to other person, you need to show the same emotion, same feeling what other person is trying to say, is showing as well, and show with the body language, like oh, oh really, and make smile from your gestures as well. You can say a lot of things as well. Step number 4, try to appreciate the other's point of view. Obviously, because you are appreciating other, you are knowing a new reality. So you need to appreciate other, because you are learning something new which you never knew. You are in other person's world, remember. So that's important. Step number 5, listen without being a hurry to take over. That's I early said that you need to listen, not in a hurry to take over. Okay, I'm listening you now. Now it's my turn to speak with you. No. That will not make you a listener. So listener is the one who not in hurry. That's a very important thing. Step number 6, try to imagine yourself in other place. Feel what the speakers feel. Is exactly the same that we need to put ourselves in other person's shoe, and this is the same thing which the previously point I have explained as well, and that is very important. I tell you a very quick aspect of one of the dimension that many criminals, do you know many criminals are being interacting by counselors, by psychiatrists, by some social worker with the spirit of empathy, only spirit of empathy. Why? Because they want to listen criminal, why they have committed this crime, why they have done this. They want to really know the slice of truth. They want to really know a slice of other reality which listener does not know. And when these researchers and psychiatrists and social workers know about a new truth, then they start to make a contribution or writing through media, and that these are the other reasons why these crimes are increasing. So that is all things happening because they are listening properly. And the same thing is about other crimes as well, including terrorism. We cannot eradicate terrorism until we don't have empathy with terrorists, and then we can make our major proper steps, and then we can make a proper strategy on a national level, and obviously on a country or on a regional level as well. So this is empathy listening, power of empathy listening. The step number 7, help draw out thought and feeling by asking questions. That's I'm saying that you need to ask the question which gives you more clarity about the other's feelings. It is very important because both don't have gone, both are not the same background, both have the different background. Maybe there is some language barrier, and just ask the question if you are not clear about what they mean to say, and that's very important. Step number 8 is about have the speaker elaborate for further understanding. Give the space and ask more, that oh yeah, tell me more about. So ask more question and ask the speaker that please elaborate more. Okay, what do you mean by this? Please explain it. I heard this term first time. Can you tell me please more about this thing? So by elaboration, you understand the other person. And step number 9, say, let me make sure I understand, and restate the issue. The same thing, you are repeating the same thing which other person is feeling or describing, and so that you and he or her are on the same page. Very important. And the last step of empathy listening, be sensitive to the speaker's feeling, and that's very important. You need to have a sympathy before you need to have a sympathy, definitely, and you must have a sensitivity before going to things. So this is all about the listening, and I hope that you